All right, let's move over to the defense because you want to talk about letting them bang. Cornerback 1, obviously, we know is D'Angelo Pons. Bite-sized Bison pointed out today that the cornerback who was getting the CB2 reps in the Mendoza to Cooper touchdown video was Jamari Sharp. Is that surprising? Did you expect it to be, was it Garland?
A little bit, but it kind of makes sense because they do have, if they separate Gandy and Knighton right away.
Gandy.
If they separate both those guys, because those are the kind of the guys that you think are competing for the one spot, like the opposite side of Pons, the two transfers that they brought in. You would think it's those guys, but just have your returning guy Sharp, who has starting experience, throw him at the ones to start with, and obviously Gandy. And we knew it was going to be Sharp, Gandy, Knighton anyways, so just start the one returning guy at the ones so far, like to start with. And, he has a shot. And, they brought these guys to kind of fuel the fire behind him. And, so Sharp gets the opportunity at first. Like I said, just typical politics of the nature, right? Yeah, it's hard because I would lean Gandy because he played Power 5 ball, ACC already, but so is Sharp in theory. So like, who's to say Knighton isn't going to be the guy? It's just really nice knowing that we have 3 guys fighting for one starting spot right now. 3 quality guys that I'd be throw them out there. I'm like, okay, we're fine. Like, I'm good with good amount of cornerback depth at this room, and we haven't even talked about the three freshmen, Signetti freshmen. When I refer to the Signetti freshmen, these are freshmen from the past 2 years, so they're likely red shirts or true freshmen. Who knows? But we got 3 very talented, if you've ever listened to this podcast, we're probably the most high on the Signetti freshmen that are in the DB room more than anything else. So that's the depth behind the 4 guys, the 4 starting experienced college level guys that we already have at the cornerback spot. So it's a place where I really just don't have a whole lot of worries. And yeah, you have an All-American on one side and a whole lot of options on the other. It's same story as last year, but it hopefully, as long as they're better than Jameer Johnson, I really don't care, to be honest. It's an upgrade. So, yeah, and that's not to say Jameer Johnson was bad in any way, but if he's an upgrade, he's an upgrade. Do
you want to talk about the safety rotation? Because obviously Amari Farrell slotted in, no-brainer start. But who do you think is going to be next to him? Who do you think's playing Rover? No. I think he was playing the deep. But
so if Farrell's playing the deep, that changes.
I think he's playing that. I think he's like literally just like he put on the number 1 jersey and he's just going to play the Sean Asbury role.
Okay. I could see Farrell playing the Rover is kind of like where I'm coming from with this, because we have a lot of depth at safety. Lewis Moore would probably be the other safety if Farrell's back there, which makes me believe Devon Boykin, the transfer from NC State, is probably going to fill out the Rover because he's just a true nickel guy. So if he's physical enough for what they want to do at that position, like he's not as big as Terry Jones and Amari Farrell. He's not as big as those guys, but if he can play the position and just be a physical cover guy for us at that position, that'd just be astronomical. So that's how I'd project the safeties. Just based on what you're telling me, it could go either way. I could see Boykin mixing in, and then you got.
Well, Farrell, I also could have just completely missed where Farrell was on the field.
Bonds and Baldwin are just there. Like Bonds, special team studs turn later in their careers always turn out to be very good starters. Like that.
Hey, listen, I'm not going to discount. Like I know probably a lot of people may have turned the game off at this point out of sheer just they felt so bad for Purdue because we were beating them so bad, but. At the end of that 66-0 game, Bryson Bonds had a ridiculous interception.
Yeah,
ridiculous. Yeah. Where he's just going almost vertical backwards. The dude could play football. And then Byron Baldwin Jr., again, if you want to echo the sentiment of if you've listened to this podcast, we're huge fans of that kid. He's a really talented football player. And then you talked about the freshmen in that room. The freshman corners are disgusting too. Jalen Hollywood Bell was on a picture. like had something posted about him today or something. It's like he was an LSU commit at one point. Like there's a lot of talent in that room, a lot of young talent in that room.
Yeah, and I think Farrell and Pons are like probably going to be NFL guys. Like just putting it out there, like they're high level players, and we got two NFL guys, very experienced, more Bonds, Boykin, and then those corners that I already mentioned. It's a very, very good room. It's a lot better than it looked going into last year. You know how last year turned out. So a lot less question marks, a lot more high seat, like just guys that can just, if these guys break out, like if I'm gonna throw a name out, Dontre Henderson, like if he breaks out, like he could end up being the starting cornerback. Who knows? Like these guys are good. Like Dontre Henderson, for those
That's
who don't know,
Jair Alexander's cousin.
Alexander, he's gonna be a redshirt freshman for the Hoosiers this year. He might, if he could break out, like that's just huge for the program, because then that's one less spot to fill in the portal, more spots to fill in in the freshman level. It's just really nice if you could have freshmen break out. And I'm gonna throw another name at safety. I'm gonna throw Jaja Boyd. He seemed to be the only redshirt freshman in the safety room, so see, we were pretty high on him. He's got a really cool name that usually works out. Would love to see him.
It's the guy who followed that he was part of that 2024 class that followed Sig from JMU to Indiana.
Another JMU guy, which it seems to be a lot of the JMU recruits are the guys breaking out early, which is funny to see. Kind of, I don't think there's a coincidence there, is what I'll say.
No, and we'll get to Landino in a second, but I do. Well, actually, and I want to finish off the cornerback room just by saying this, that I don't think it's an accident that it looks like two of the dopest guys in the world are Ola Adams and Rod Ojong, and those are your corners coach and your safeties coach, and their room is sick.
And the room's awesome. Yeah. So much potential, so much proven talent already there. It's sky's the limit. Like, because like these young guys are going to be learning from D'Angelo Pons and Amari Farrell and Lewis Moore and those guys. Like Lewis Moore has been around the block. Like he's played a lot of football. He knows what winning looks like. He knows what losing looks like. He knows a lot. He knows a lot about college football. I'll tell you that, just from his whole roller coaster of a career, just going from a 3-9 Indiana team to a 10-win playoff contender in Ole Miss. And yeah, it's just, yeah, he probably has tons of stories. So these guys can just soak it all in and just be great, you know. No pressure to like break out or anything. You know, we're not relying on these freshmen to play by any means. It's just if they can give us some special teams. Like, yeah, I mean, if they're getting on the field, that's just a good sign for the program health.
100%. Speaking of getting on the field, it's so hard to tell in these like one video shots or these like pictures they sent out, but Roe Hardy was the other linebacker, it looked like, next to Fisher. And so it seems like he might have the slight edge over Bones Jones when it comes to that second linebacker spot. Are you seeing anything?
The biggest clear, like it's either this guy or this guy battle throughout all of spring, and it'll probably go into fall too, is Roe Hardy versus Isaiah Jones for that second linebacker spot. It's wide open. They didn't get to go in the portal to get a guy. It's clearly theirs for the taking. And that was always the plan because they both look really good. And just like I've been saying, like one's going to start and then one's going to be the backup. Like the depth is awesome. Like it's at a point, like, it's like, I don't care. I don't care who starts. I think it'd be awesome for Bones Jones to get that opportunity and then to be kind of mix in Roe Hardy as kind of the playmaking. You know, he seems to, that dude, that Roe Hardy dude, I don't know what's up with him. He's like 5'11", 220, just running around there.
He's like, what's wrong with that guy? I don't know.
Like the best football player you've ever seen, like 0-star recruit. Just like he's the best. He's like the best football player you've ever seen. He's like 220, 5'11". That guy cracks me up. He's just like, I don't understand. Like I'm so excited for his career because he's just going to be doubted again. He's probably going to go undrafted, have a great college career, go undrafted, and then make a 53 man. It's probably what's going to happen to Roe Hardy. He's probably just going to continue to be doubted and just continue to prove him wrong. And like myself. Like, remember when we previewed these freshmen? I was just like, I don't know who the hell Rohardy is.
Yeah, I was like, no, we have to talk. I'm pretty sure he transferred in from a naval prep academy, right?
Yeah, he was like the only 0-star recruit on the team, and he's like the freshman that got the most playing time. It's
when your coach is
unreal.
telling you, I don't care about stars, I only care about production, and then you see a 0-star recruit in the roster, and you just don't like, if you don't immediately go like, maybe that guy's probably pretty good. Like, you're just not.
Yeah.
You either don't trust the guy or you're not listening.
I didn't know. Like, yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
I didn't trust Sig at the time. Like, this is the new Indiana football coach. No one's ever had success at this school ever, and he's bringing in 0-star recruits. Oh, tale as old as time. Indiana 0-star recruits. Like, that's yeah, he didn't earn that trust yet. So like, yeah, I kind of had to disrow Hardy there and overlooked him. But that's just the sign to where when we look at these recruiting classes, like, as long as we're getting the guys that we're really going after, we're gonna be all right. Obviously, we're gonna get the 4 and 5. We're gonna get in the running for these 4 and 5 stars, but we're still gonna get the 4 and 5 stars that we want. We're not just gonna get the ones that are the most available, which is a big mistake a lot of programs make in the SEC, especially
And in
because
Nebraska,
they have all these great recruiting classes, and then they still stink. It's like, what's going on? Enough of them, though.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you know who doesn't stink? The Indiana defensive line. We know for a fact Mikal Kamara is sliding over. He's gonna play stud. We are strongly assuming Jose Wheeler. So if you don't know who Jose Wheeler is, go like after the stream's done, go check out Buffed Prime's breakdown of Jose Wheeler, just the type of player he is, and you'll be just as excited as we are. Like, this dude's an animal. He was 2-gapping against Alabama. Freak at 300 pounds. This dude's a freak. Like, honestly, you could tell me he's going to play the end spot that Kamara played last year, and I would believe you. But I kind of shifting down through the rest of the line. What does it look like to you?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think a lot of guys are going to get some opportunities that maybe they won't. And I'm going to be brutally honest here. I like the room. There's tons of young, talented depth here. Like this, I think they have 18 scholarship guys coming into the spring. Like this is a great, like, depth-wise, great room just in terms of just upside there because there's just so many people, right? Like, there's just, I think it's the biggest room. I think it's the biggest room on the roster is their defensive line right now in terms of scholarship count. D-line has the most scholarships right now. So there's just a lot of guys that can break out, and that includes like an Andrew Turvey, who's technically a walk-on. Like, you have Utzinger in the linebacking room that will probably get a lot of special teams playing time, but Turvey was getting some tick early in the year, and he's going to have an opportunity to kind of compete behind Kamara at that stud spot that he was at last year, and compete against Ndukwe and kind of see kind of where those two guys are at in terms of being the backup for Kamara. Like, are they where we need to be? Like, this is a room where I think there's a lot of evaluation going to be going on. I think in terms of like which room probably has the most potential for post-spring turnover, it's probably going to be the defensive line, just because there's just there's so many guys. There's so many guys, and you just don't know where they're going to be at. And
well, actually, I will add that I think I don't want to say I can safely say it, but I think you can give an early nod to Mario Landino at that Kamara spot as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just think because of the way he played last year, the spots he was in, because of what he showed, like,
and
I
that's
think
what I'm
that dude's
saying.
prime
Like,
for a really big
defense
defense fall.
Yeah. I'm sorry for interrupting you, by the way.
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah.
You're
good. With Landino, like, because we're pretty high on Landino. The dude we always bring up his high school senior stats where he's like a D tackle, 12 games. He had like 100 tackles.
97 tackles.
97 tackles.
I think actually I watched it break Brad in real time when he saw this. He's like because I read it and I was like, yeah, he had like 97 tackles, and Brad was like at defensive
tackle. Like, he wasn't playing like edge because he's like the biggest guy on their team, so he's playing in the middle. Even if he was DN, like, that's still like, that's probably crazy. Actually, if he was on one side of the field and they're probably running away from him because he's Mario Landino, that's even crazier that he has 97. So like, whatever the situation is, it's insane. So I think, yeah, like I was saying, like, big evaluation Opportunity in the sense that, like, yeah, we're gonna have this redshirt freshman getting runs with the ones, and we're gonna see if how he goes up against Carter Smith and Zen Mikowski every day. And is he going to be ready to get the majority of the snaps at that position? If not, he's going to be a 2, and they're going to bring a guy in the portal. This is a room where I think if they're going to go post spring portal, they're going to really focus on this D line. And if they can bring in more depth and have Landino, even if Landino is like really good, like maybe bring in just upgrade that position to have Landino just fresh, like D line. That's a room where there's a ton of rotation. So like playable depth is the most important thing. So guys like Collins, like where's Tre'Davious Collins at? Like is he playable yet? Is kind of like why I keep saying, evaluation in these guys like the DePepe brothers and yeah, just seeing where they're at, especially at the DN spot with this group, is where a lot of question marks are. Obviously, they have Kamara and they're looking really good, but can they get better? Are they better than they were last year? Is just kind of the question marks that are just going in to this room, because obviously that's the room where they lost the most talent. It really is, at least at the starting level. You had C.J. West, Carpenter. I'm missing one. C.J. West, Carpenter,
Linnell Carr.
Linnell Carr. And they lost 3 really good players to eligibility, and they got to replace it. They bring back the All-American, but I think Tyree Tucker is the guy that's really he's gonna start at nose, and Hosea Wheeler at D tackle. I think my gut's telling me that's pretty set. And then you got Burris and Ratcliffe in the wings, guys he already brought in. So they kind of already addressed the D tackle. The D end is, I would say, where the most question marks are, for me, at least. I could be wrong, and all these guys are playable, and I don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
Well, I think that's what
in terms of just like proven on the field, like there's a lot less than the DB and the linebacking room, is what I'll say.
Well, you talk about you talk about the year 2 jump, all right? What does that look like? It looks like a freshman who maybe wasn't physically ready or mentally ready to play, spending the offseason and a spring in the playbook and in the weight room, and all of a sudden that person reaches the talent level you saw for them, and that person's ready to play. So that's what that jump looks like. And like obviously,
but is that an upgrade from Linnell Carr? Like that's the question.
That's a question. But if you if you want to go by the vibes and like obviously we weren't in the weight room all off season, but like all reports out of Bloomington right now scream like this is a really physical, really freaky football team that's excited to get back on the field.
Oh yeah, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. But if we could just talk about playable depth, just the end, it's just a lot less proven. You have Kamara and Landino. No one else has gotten tick in that D end room. No one else, to my knowledge. I don't think Collins has gone on the field. I don't think DePepe's gone on the field. I would love to see them all break out and be great players, but they're going to evaluate and see where they're at.
No, I'm with you. I think post spring portal on the defensive line is definitely something to watch, and it's something that shout out to Angelo Pons, who's been almost relentless on recruiting guys and scouting guys, and so I'm sure we're in good hands at that position. But no, you're right. It's when you talk about like unproven production, like that's the one spot on the field really where you can point to and be like, and I guess maybe right tackle if you want to question how much football Mikowski.
Zen Mikowski, I believe.
Mikowski. If you want to question how much football he's actually played, but no, it's the roster looks good, and I think a lot of the question marks and a lot of the positional, I guess, battles that we almost talked about, a lot of that's going to be figured out in the next 3-4 weeks.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, and like Zen Mikowski, like he's a guy coming from the Ohio State O-line rotation. Like he was playing for Ohio State. He wasn't necessarily starting. It's just a very, very talented recruit that they brought in. But like to the D line, I'd love to see potential breakouts from Ndukwe and Collins. I think that would be very, very beneficial for our team. Would be those 2 guys stepping up, being able to be kind of rotational guys behind Kamara when he's not on the field. And then the big DN spot where Landino is going to be, who's kind of going to break out behind them. the DePepes. There's Keyshawn Calhoun, I believe, is a true freshman.
Yep.
That's just a position where they're gonna bring in a senior guy, whether he's gonna start behind Landino or ahead of him. I think they're just gonna bring in a guy there.
I think they're sitting at like 81 or 82 scholarships,
Yeah,
so there is
they
a
have
little bit of room for.
they could bring
Yeah,
in one tomorrow if they wanted to, but I think they're waiting for to not wait. I don't think they want to waste scholarships on just like guys they're not sold on.
No, they're very meticulous. They're going to see what they have, see who hops in the portal, and if that person they deem can help the roster, they're going to make a strong run at them. And if they go through spring and they're like, "Nah, we're good," then they'll be good, and we're going to
Yeah.
enter in the fall with the same roster, and we're going to be happy about it.
Yeah, it's just an evaluation with that D line. I think there's a lot to be sorted out. I think there's a clear I think Kamara, Wheeler, and Tucker are like pretty solid, brought in, kept to start. Besides that, I think it's full reign. I think Burris is going to get a ton of tick and Ratcliffe, but besides that, you really don't know. And we're going to play 8 D linemen like we did last year. And right now, it seems like we only have about 6 for sure playable guys. So just like I said, Collinson and Dukeway, I would say, would love to see those guys break out for those last 2 spots is kind of how I'd wrap this up.